for
Dungeon Doom
the
Hands.
mountains.
Let's talk
Right.
lore.
So,
A podcast.
I'm Spencer.
I've been-
This is Chris. Welcome back to Let's Talk Lore. And Chris,
Important
lead
part.
away. Go ahead.
So, in a few short episodes, Spencer is going to be taking a break from DMing, and I'm going to take over for a little act. And if the story goes with, we're going to take the bait and we're going to go to the mountains because that's where we're planning to go next.
Lord,
Because
Lord has it.
Because and if for some reason everyone wants to go to the Sky Mountains, I'll have to last minute change the plan the sky and locks it on or something.
That's hilarious.
But we'll figure that out if it comes there.
Yeah.
But my plan in the mountains is to have a travel from Trigar to the town of, and I forget the name. Oh, I think I figured out the name for the town.
Nice.
Did we roll the name for the
Wait,
town?
wait. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
So, when I was doing Trigard, which is a massive city,
Right.
I realized through Matt was one of our players, aka Agnes, plays
Yes.
it every other Monday. I realized after the session, and very important that you have a little decompressing moment after the sessions with everyone, as we do live stream, but in person you do it in person as well, where you just do a little quick summary of what happened and what did you like, what did you not like, how could I have done that a little bit better to make it more player engaging. Again, this is a player engaging podcast for Dungeons and Dragons. He said to me that he really enjoyed the random encounters. Like the random encounters. So like the way I set up the city, it just happened to be this way. I didn't do this because I'm a guru. I just did this by accident. But I struck gold. I think, in a certain sense. I had a massive city, and so I said, okay, I'm gonna have 100. I'm gonna have 3 different 100 random encounter tables that I could roll. So I have 300 encounters that I can roll from, and every city block, you're gonna have 2 that you roll. Very rarely was there a combat encounter involved. Usually it was some sort of puzzle, not even a puzzle. It was some sort of like, a guy was selling fruit. And
it was a random interaction.
Right, and his fruit stand blew over, whatever.
And we interacted with however we wanted to.
Right.
We came to the pizza parlor and we went in and murdered and ate all their brains.
Yeah, and then you went to the herb place and just stole a bunch of herbs. I have no idea what herbs you got, but I have a list, and we'll figure that out next time. And then sometimes you ran into, actually the majority of the time, you guys just ran away. You guys ran away from the guys.
I was so excited to get that wizard's gift with the tea shop. I thought I picked the right person for the job, but
no, the grenade.
No.
And
so I love the randomness too.
Right.
I do.
So I don't want to lose that aspect. That's something I want to keep.
So I had to change. I love the idea of just like we have so many steps to get from point A to point B, and on those steps, random stuff's going to happen.
Right.
But my plan for the mountains, because we talked about the mountains are like very weird, and it's like you get lost in there easy. We didn't really figure out how. I got the lore for figuring out how.
Oh yes. Well, don't ruin too much for me.
No, I'm not going to ruin too much.
I can take it.
But the mechanics of it, I'll tell you the mechanics. So I'm going to get my copy of Catan and lay out the tiles in a map. And I have a number of like major points that are in the desert.
Okay.
Like a cave here or a building here or something. There's like a list of, I think, 7 or 8 of those. And each of those are going to get a specific tile.
Nice.
And all the other random other ones are just random stuff that happens. So like your random table of what was happening, I have a multi-layered rolling table of like roll me a d12 to see like what type of encounter, and then roll me a d4 for like what random creatures are in that space.
Interesting. So
or
so you're gonna have tables that set up that set up tables.
yeah, well, it's
That's
like a
gonna be hard.
nested table to like so I can
Oh, you mean
have
so it's like
different. So
okay,
it's like different types, and in those types there's subtypes,
okay.
and
So
just instead of having like a D100s all like random order, it's just
so
nested.
if you haven't watched our Let's Talk Lore encounter table sessions, there's two of them. Go back and look at that. There's a portion of which Chris and I go into detail about types of encounters. That I think is what he's
Mhm.
referring to. When you
Yeah,
say a type of encounter, it's like, the air blows. That's just a nature cool. Everyone's
for
involved, or there's a person, or there's a blah 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 blah
there's
blah.
some examples of
Right.
like the categories I have are random creatures, NPCs, environmental,
Nice. Yeah.
or like structures
I think
things. There's a
environmental
couple
is
other ones.
huge. I think it's huge. I almost
Well,
think that like with the way I ran the
luckily I
forest,
have a book over here from our friends who do the Game Master book of random tables,
we
environmental
we get zero
things.
dollars if you go purchase this thing. Purchase
We
it. Trust me,
just
it
we
makes it.
just use them all the
Yeah, it's
time.
awesome. Um, I did.
So
Yeah, go ahead. I'm
so
gonna learn
what the way that the desert's going to work is
the
you
mountains.
have your starting point, your
Hmm.
starting tile that never moves, and you have the town at the end. And your goal is to get from the start to the town.
Right.
And say it's like 6 squares away. You're like, okay, that might take us 3 days of travel through the mountains, so we'll see what happens. Each night when you rest, so after you move your 2 squares or however many squares that you guys can move in a day, because I know Matt has, we move through difficult terrain as if it's normal or whatever.
Yeah.
So at the end of the night, you're going to camp on one of the squares and you don't move. All the other squares are actually, no. You roll a d4 to figure out which direction you move in at night, and you roll a d4 to see how far you move.
I like that.
So you're going to move to a specific point on the map. Your square moves. And then I reshuffle all the tiles and lay them out randomly again. So each day the whole map is randomized and you can your square moves a little bit at night.
Nice.
Or like maybe one square in a certain direction or
Yeah. So it
maybe
keeps you
two
always
squares.
get.
So you're always having to try and like get to this point and maybe you get lucky and you go end up right next to it the next day.
That's awesome.
But there's all those other tiles, so I have those 8 like major hotspots there get shuffled in too. So maybe you like some cave was never going to be on your path, and the next morning it's square right next to you.
It's tough. I gotta say. So the city was easy because you're in a city.
Yeah.
You see a fruit guy, his thing falls over, and do you help him?
Hmm.
Well, the way that the encounter was read, it said, if you help him, he gives you fruit.
Right.
That's it. Um, Boom. You guys tried to help him. There was another person that was dying.
Hmm.
I forgot what it was exactly.
The
No, no.
guard
So
died.
no, my favorite was the lady giving
Old
birth.
lady is watching
Some
you.
lady, no, some lady started giving birth, and
Birth.
Buddhabot was like, "This is an encounter that I think I'd like to just go ahead and bypass." And you guys went into the pizza shop and murdered everyone in the pizza shop. That's how that happened. Or like the old guy staring at you walking down the street. That's the entire encounter. So
Hmm.
do you interact with him? I think that maybe I don't know how you're going to set it up. You're the god in this
Right.
situation. Those encounters I think are almost like they're just that just happens in cities. So but what
Yeah.
happens in mountains is a real good question.
Well,
Do you see an eagle fly down and catch
yeah.
a
So
whatever
so some of
bird?
the things I'm gonna save some of the good ones,
Yeah.
or like say for the NPCs. So like you can have people from a town seeking refuge. You can have delivery van or truck.
Guys getting lost. Guys, you know what?
Lost kids or
we've been
lost
out
adults.
here for 26 days.
Yeah.
They told us it was only going to take 3 days
Or
to get there. Let's head
you
back.
run into some guards from Trigard who are trying to make their way out there.
Right. Or some lady
It's like
who's been lost
you could
there
just
forever.
be on the trail and
Right.
like coming from behind you rather quickly are 4 guards on horses.
Yeah.
And they just gallop and yell, move aside, and
right.
they just rush past.
But you should have, like, I don't know, you could do whatever.
Well,
I always like to have some random crap that sometimes the random stuff takes you off to a side quest. That's some of the things that I get worried about. But you know what? You always come back. You always come back in some way. The side quest can be, this will help you on the main quest. You know, that's the resolve almost. So I feel like some of those books that we get are built like that, where, you know, there's A and then there's B. One of the people that was telling me about writing eventually we're going to write the first act of the campaign, and I was just saying, like, how do you even do it? One of the guys that I was talking to online, when I just opened up a thread and wrote it, he said you have A and then there's B, sort of like what you're talking about, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 different possible ways of getting of helping you get there, and those 10 things are encounters, or they have subsets that are encounters in themselves that all lead to it. Right. So that's how I sort of. I mean, the guy was pretty smart. That's how I sort of do the encounters. Okay, they're all leading to one.
Yeah,
to one
they're all
going
to bring you to same direction.
So you yourself, as the dungeon master, don't get overwhelmed in going through the mountains with all these random things. You have an answer, sort of.
But, well, and my goal, and I'm gonna have you help me with some of these things because I can only think of so much myself. My goal is to have each one of these be some random thing that happens that if the party wants to interact with, they can tell some of the story of the mountains and the town and everything around it.
Oh, you mean you're gonna let the players do some explaining?
Well, it's the players, if they choose to interact with whatever random is there.
Right.
So maybe there's a supply cart driving by, and of course, Aranis is gonna Aranis and Ignis are gonna do their steal off and see who can get the most from this cart without anyone noticing.
Right. Or maybe you come across a sub settlement, a different. Yeah. You come across a settlement that you think is the settlement, but it turns out that these guys just, you know, they've been here for years and they can't get out, and they decided to say, "Screw it, we're gonna start our own. Give this to the king if you see him." You know. It's gonna be good. Are you gonna have? I'm excited for. I love the nature stuff. So it's like when I ran that forest, I almost always started with some sort of like. We were in a mysterious forest, so I always started with like a poem or a quote from, you know, you hear the trees talking and this is what they say, or it's raining. Or it begins to rain, and you describe the rain a little bit. I like the descriptions, short and sweet. I haven't really used describe, I think is what it is, but I've typed it. I haven't used it in gameplay. I have used it in trying to describe a kraken. Didn't really work out because I was so engaged in that battle. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. But I feel like there's some actual non-D&D content that you can use to help you describe the mountains in ways that the players would engage with. Whether it's like the Robert Frost poems for the forest and shit. That type of thing is pretty cool. That I'll send you some stuff because that's right up my.
I'm having ideas because
my alley.
Spoiler for you: the town is French.
Oh, oui. And who are the French gonna? What are they gonna? That's interesting. So
I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. So I always have the accents be the language. At least from my game, the accents, you know, like the Italian, where that's how you speak Minotaur. What are the French? What are the?
I have to figure out the languages for Evil Titan Tamer. Actually, I have an idea.
I'm going to go up to the first NPC that I see that pisses anyone off, and I'm going to say, "You're what the French call a laissez compétent." And I don't know what that even means today. I've heard it 100 times every time I watch Home Alone, but I'm gonna, I will do that. You know, it might not be the
And
French.
I now, thank you for the heads up. I have to go look up what that actually means, and I
Test me.
will be able to respond accordingly.
This is exciting. So, um, I really
So
like that. Yeah, go ahead.
random tables, random tables. So I'm going to give you a couple that I need.
Okay.
So one that I have, and I'm excited for you guys to interact with them, that you can interact with them in a couple ways, is a wandering merchant.
Ooh.
So we had our market episode and talking about how I like to do markets. So I'm going to be doing something with him. The question I have is it's like trying to figure out where you meet him. If like you meet him on the road, you meet him, does he have a random shop, or is you just let that decide?
Maybe there's a horse. Maybe there's a horse or an animal. And there's a buggy
Because
that there's a wheel. Maybe it's
yeah,
like a,
well, I think the challenge that I'm thinking of is I want to have these random places that the people can be in, but I also want to have it random if a couple of these NPCs that are in the area would interact or like would randomly be in the same place because they're going to travel around too. They're going to move through. Or do I have them be a static place in the
I mean,
map?
think about in the real life. Like if you were
Hmm.
a merchant trying to take advantage of travelers who need something in the mountain, where would you be? You would be at a spot where the a person would most likely be like place where there's fresh water, a place where there's some
Or
sort of
you give me
vegetation maybe, or
you gave me a good point. Have a oasis in the center,
yeah, or
and
not
that's
necessarily
where
in the
that
center or like a creek or
or like
whatever.
some random spot in there that doesn't move, and that's where they set up, and everyone who travels through there knows to try and seek out that spot on their way.
Yeah, this
So that's
indicates
where
that
your
you're
small town
yeah.
is.
We know that this spot is XYZ kilometers, whatever they measure.
Yeah.
Uh, this is 3 nights away. Maybe you have a
Or
spot that's 3 nights, or how far? How many nights is it going to be? 3 nights walk
it's like
supposedly.
2, 3 something. I haven't figured that
So
out
so
yet.
maybe you have a spot where it's like this is you're 2 nights in or whatever. But that spot, obviously just to your thing, it moves around, so it's not.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's one that's constant. Maybe that's the guy that's
That's what I'm
constant.
saying. And there's like a point in there that's constant that that's a halfway point or so.
Yeah,
Or like that's everyone. So you go to the top of the mountain when you wake up and see where that is if you're heading towards it.
that's a great idea.
I
So
love
there's
that idea.
so that encounter's sort of like in there.
Yeah.
Um, and then like I don't know. I feel
That's
like
built into the mechanics of it.
I feel like battling is a and fighting is a whole let's talk
Hmm.
lore session within itself about like strengths and weaknesses of how to run
The combat.
a good combat. A lot of people have
But
said, there's a time limit,
I,
blah blah
I
blah.
think I think for the tables, it's you let it be like the random encounters that you were doing
Right.
in the city. It's like, all right, I have a couple tables to figure out what animals are going to be there. And it's like, if there's a pack of wolves, like, what are they going to be doing? They're going to be hunting.
Well, the thing about yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Do
Or
you
if
do
there's
you
like,
get
if
their
there's some
attention?
sheep, or yeah, or like, are you, Sprock is incredibly perceptive all the time. So it's like, Sprock, you hear some twigs snapping in the trees. Like, you give the foreshadow for that.
Well,
But
just
if you
be
see some
ready.
sheep on the side, see some sheep or goats climbing on the side of the mountain, party's gonna be like, yeah, we're just gonna keep going.
Be ready. Not too ready because I am never really ready for the things. Be ready for like someone to be like, okay, I'm gonna talk to this tree and I'm gonna ask him where the hell am I, and
Yeah.
and the tree's gonna be like, I don't speak French, or like or
The
like
trees only speak deep speech.
yeah. I mean, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But the trees also are going to be just as confused as the players. So I like that.
Hmm.
I like that, and maybe every encounter has that overarching like not necessarily theme, but like you're trying to confuse people by moving the.
Hmm.
So
By
maybe
moving the.
maybe everyone in there is sort of any sort of perception. I don't know how you do it visually, but like communicating to nature, looking at paths, like maybe
Hmm.
you go to sleep and there's footprints leading in one direction, you wake up and the footprints are in the opposite. That type of,
Hmm.
some sort of like weird thing is going on in the creepy mountains or whatever.
Or you walk through and you recognize the same path that you were on before.
Yes. And then like maybe it's the same exact encounter, not
Hmm.
necessarily with the NPC, but like
Or
it's
do
the
you see
same
the
thing.
same goats on the mountain?
Is it a deja vu? Yeah, you look up, you see
Yeah.
this guy, you see the same hawk catch the same bird.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm. So now I have to number every single one of the tiles
oh
to
yeah,
see if you
dude,
see the same one
I
again.
had. Then you know what was so good about the forest? That was the biggest.
Mm.
This one right here, that was the
Yeah.
first one that I ran. That was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna make a lot of random. I didn't make a table. I did make a table. There were 30 different areas. You guys went through all of them. So I have a inkling, Chris, that the way you play it, it might be that um, we try to, we not necessarily want to hit them all, but you'll see. I mean, I feel like if you, the way the city worked, it was so good. It was fast, and I also had
Hmm.
zombies. You got to remember,
Right.
but even before, I
Yeah.
still did the first two sessions in the city, first three sessions in the city, actually four. I had those encounters built in, and they were a little bit longer than they needed to be for me, at
Well,
least. For
I
you
think
players, it was a little different, but
I think just like going into the city for the first time, if after you've been like where I live, like me, if I'm going to Miami, as soon as I go in, there's so much going around, and you're just brought into all of it. And then after you've been there for a while, like I just need to get where I'm going. I'm just gonna beeline
yeah,
past all this crap.
yes, and I think
I don't need to interact with everyone.
in the mountains, it's going to be a little bit different, where it's
Hmm.
sort of opposite, zoned in. Doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily mean that the encounters need to take longer to get through.
No. Well, maybe the people
Um,
that are there are they're running away from you, or they just want to get past you as fast as they
or
can.
they're asking you where they are, or but
Yeah.
I would say, how many do you have in total?
How many what?
Like, so if you're gonna,
So I have a
if we're gonna go
D12.
from, so if we're gonna go here, and
Right.
we're going here, and you
Hmm.
have Catan pieces,
Right.
sort of. How many? You have 12 pieces?
I don't remember the
Okay,
size
don't
of
tell
the
me.
katana.
Yeah.
I'm not. I played it. I'm not a expert. I don't know. Remember the exact
Well,
size
this is
of
not how you
what the
play
map
Catan.
is.
This is not how you play Catan. But
No,
I
I
have a
know it's
met.
not how you play
But
katana,
it is.
but I'm using it.
What's the piece
The
that you move?
robber,
Okay, we are robbers.
the thief.
Well,
What that's gonna
essentially,
be.
that's the.
That's where you are gonna be on this
Yeah,
map.
exactly. That might be good. I think that might be enough.
Hmm.
I was gonna say maybe more, but that sounds pretty
And
damn good.
the other thing that I like about using those pieces is they're the different what they call the different commodities. So that's going to set the environment for each tile. So you go from a mountainous region to the forest.
To
Like
like a mountain, to like yeah, yeah.
there's like a little forest in the valley.
You see, in that type of um, description to me is for at least my playing style is
Mm,
important. So like if you're You guys walk. Now you're walking, however far, and you see that. But are we gonna be able to choose?
Oh, you can choose any way you go.
Okay, so we're
You're
here.
you're gonna have a
Got it.
you'll be on the map and you can say, I'm gonna take a picture of the map and show you.
No,
Like, no, I'm not gonna show you everything on the map, but I'm gonna like lay it out and like you can choose to go in north, south, east, or west. Tell me which
right.
way you're gonna go.
And
You
now,
know the direction
right
of where your end goal is.
now, a navigator, ranger,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, whoever.
Right.
Um, I don't want to know the answer of what it
Right.
is, but is there going to be something that is it always random? That's up to you. Don't answer that question.
Well,
Like you look at the sky and the sun's over there, and then you go to sleep and now it's foggy. You don't see a sun.
mm-hmm.
That. So,
Yeah.
but in between, what I was going to ask was in between. Okay, Chris, I want to go north.
Right.
Is there? Are there going to be like okay, now you have to climb up down the mountain into the valley?
Well,
Um,
it's going to be all right. You're going to head north from your camp in the center of the square. You're going to have some encounters on your way out of this hex in the mountain area, and then you're going to see a transition from this region to the next,
it's
and
interesting.
encounters can happen anywhere along that way.
I would say maybe have more nature encounters, um, but also like that's my suggestion. But you know me, that's
Yeah.
my. Um,
Well, the monsters that I have are ones that I would think would be in the mountains.
oh, you mean the monsters that like to have that horn of berserkers that are after that? Because that
Yes.
thing,
Yes.
yeah,
The monsters that like to steal magic items from people who have tons of
yeah,
them.
and they're really good at them at
Oh
stealing.
yeah.
Yeah, they're called
They
robbers.
they steal and use them immediately
Break
and then
them.
smash them.
Break. Um,
No, but like the
that's
environmental one is going to
hilarious.
be stuff mostly in the
Yeah,
in that region.
I'm very
Yeah.
excited for this. I know you are too, but I'm excited to do this. That
But I
sounds
also
awesome.
have stuff that are it's like a random farm or some ruins. Are you going to
Is
go investigate the ruins? No, you're just
right.
going to keep moving. All right, keep going.
I like investigating. Are you going to have a side quest type thing set up where
There
um
can be.
right. That's what I
If you want to take an
to
extra couple
derail. Uh,
sessions
yeah.
to not DM.
No.
Like
No, no,
Chris,
no.
that eight sessions going to turn to 15.
Listen,
We're going to
I
take a little side quest
I
down this
have been
dungeon crawl
DMing. Been DMing for 2 years now.
for years.
Yeah, more than 2 years. Yeah,
Mhm.
and they need to get this, and whatever this is to help them with their quest.
Yeah,
Your Act 9, I believe it is, or 10
I
of
think
the.
9.
I think it's 9. Act 9 of Agoth Doomhand and the Skulls of Power will be from that until um, until we
Whenever they
get
get
that
that
we
thing.
get that piece.
Hmm.
Um, and I have a feeling like I'm gonna need some backup PCs because someone's gonna make me prove myself to the group, and his name is Matt.
And for Zergo.
There is without a doubt there's no doubt in my mind that Aaron casts me to hell as soon as he turns into Aaron's. That's gonna be so funny. I'm excited.
Oh
So
shoot, I have to do that too. Oh my
yeah, oh
goodness.
yeah, yeah, yep.
Oh,
Um, so
you're still Aranis's patron though.
yeah, and
I
you're also gonna get the um, he. Well, that's the thing. Um,
well, you're gonna have to tell me the mechanics.
well, patrons don't. I mean, we can talk about this
Well,
after, but
yeah, you can. Yeah.
patrons, in my opinion, don't um, sort of interact like gods. They and let's talk Lord Patrons with Aaron
Yes,
as a special guest since he's the one who's possessed sort of. Um,
absolutely.
patrons are a gust of wind that sort of hints at a direction or um,
Hmm.
just subtle suggestions as to what you should do. It's not forcing anyone to do anything. Like
that gives me an idea.
You get a chill
for my random tables.
Right. You get a chill. That's it.
Yeah. The random roll of a wind blowing up the back of your shirt, giving you a chill over towards your right shoulder instead of your left when you see the fork in the road.
Yeah. Only one nipple gets hard. You know? And which direction?
And Aaron's, Asmodeus is telling is guiding Aaronus where to go.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, we'll talk patrons another time.
I like that.
But
that can be thrown into the randomness too.
Oh yeah,
Aaron, you feel a breeze float through your pants.
Yeah, it feels like Darth Vader's force, and and it hurts. Anyway, that's Let's Talk Lore. This episode, we were discussing encounters on a mountain trail with Chris as he's going to run our next mountain sessions. Hopefully everyone, it's going to be really funny if everyone's like, you know what, let's go to space. But even if that happens, space has a lot of mountains.
I can figure out space.
Yeah.
Space is easy.
But that's a sort of like a cool, and I would also, just something throwing out there, dungeon mastering and putting together the board, for me, has been a lot better. Don't blush, Chris. Ever since I've been able to throw ideas off of you, because it's two heads are better than one. I wouldn't say the whole party needs to know about things, but
the brainstorming to see if ideas make sense.
Yeah. This is a perfect example of that, and the encounters that you choose are certainly gonna. I can't wait to do.
I am so excited to
Catan, Dungeon Dragons Catan. I can't wait to come up with a title for this podcast session.
I'm gonna have a section on my desk set up with just the map.
Yeah.
And you're gonna see me like, hold on, let me check something, move stuff around. Okay, make sure I take a picture of it and put it all away before.
I want a photo of Catan, and then I'm gonna just like cut in pictures of like Darth Vader.
This is where Aaronus turns.
It's like Chris's path through the mountains. Watch this podcast.
This is where Loxodon got dragged off by wolves.
Yeah. King Lo. Yeah, I don't know if that guy's making it, but we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see which location Ignis 300 someone off a cliff.
Yeah, or Booterbot's like, I'm gonna just remember he's got a pistol now. So it's RoboCop someone.
A duel in the West.
Yeah. I'm Spencer. This is Chris. This is Let's Talk Lore. This is how you brainstorm the mountains. Very exciting. I would say two sessions. 3.
I don't know.
2 to 3 sessions. 2 to 3 sessions, depending on this next. I'm probably gonna rush you to the door because I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, here's a puzzle and here's the solution. Don't waste time. Don't waste 2 hours going in circles.
We just did traps. We're like, wow, you just got through that whole thing without setting up a trap. Chris, you're up now. Peace. Yeah, that's hilarious.
See a Loxodon on the corner. Chris, go.
We'll be right back to make a random NPC in the mountains. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Be back in a second.